On the morning of May 18th, the 2nd Cavalry Division was 9 miles north of Kingston. The 4th Michigan had moved out about 4 a.m. with instructions to proceed down the Kingston Road. As the Michigan Regiment wended its way through the narrow, twisting valley that led to Kingston, it was soon divided, with about 225 men of the 3rd Battalion under the command of Major Horace D. Grant far in the lead, with no immediate support to the rear. About a mile from Kingston, Captain Tolton, sensing the enemy was nearby, halted frequently. At one stop, a deer appeared, crouched momentarily, and suddenly sprang across the column and disappeared into the brush. An officer from Girard's staff, who had just ridden up to confer with Major Grant, dismissed the possibility that rebels lurking out of sight had spooked the animal. He assured the 3rd Battalion commander, "There are no rebels here." Despite his assurance, Grant continued his cautious advance up the road. The surrounding country was lightly forested with pine trees, but a dense undergrowth provided excellent cover for an enemy ambush. The column hadn't covered over 100 more yards when rebels hidden in the undergrowth in a horseshoe around the battalion fired a volley at close range. Rapidly closing ranks, the Michigan men replied with their carbines. Menaced on 3 sides, the beleaguered Yanks were spared annihilation only by the rapid, sustained fire provided by their Spencer carbines, which could be discharged 7 times while a rebel with a musket fired a single shot. Lemmon's description captured the desperation of the engagement. Bullets passing near our ears rendered us deaf, while bark, splinters, and sand thrown into our eyes almost deprived us of sight. Horses, wounded or frightened, reared and screamed at every close volley. As the battalion's companies leapfrogged back along the road, providing cover for each other, a cloud of dust heralded the approach of a cavalry regiment. Suddenly, less than 20 yards away, a column of horsemen appeared around a curve. Lemmon recalled a gigantic, villainous-looking officer with 2 or 3 stars on his collar brandish his gleaming saber and ordered his men, "Give 'em hell." At that moment, Lemmon's company delivered a volley that broke the charge and filled the road in front of them with bodies, including the rebel colonel. Captain Tolton praised his men. "Good for you. You sent that colonel where he intended to send us." The 4th Michigan fought its way back for 6 miles, according to Lemmon, contesting every hill and grove, our horses dripping with sweat and reeling with weakness, ourselves exhausted, disorganized, and almost out of ammunition, and many dismounted. The battalion commander, Major Grant, riding a few yards in front of Lemmon, spurred his horse down a gully along the road when the exhausted animal fell, pinning its rider, who was unable to free himself before a rebel squad took him prisoner. Lemmon avoided a similar fate by allowing his horse to negotiate the steep slope while he used his last 7 rounds to ward off the swarming rebel pursuit. The threat of death or capture remained imminent until the 4th Michigan reached a defensive line manned by troops of the division's 3rd Brigade. Half a dozen rapid volleys ended the pursuit and provided security for the exhausted men of the Michigan Cavalry Regiment. For the next 3 months, Lemmon was in constant action as the Union advanced on Atlanta. During the final days of the siege of the city, the Michigan private participated in a daring cavalry raid commanded by Union General Judson Kilpatrick, who led his command completely around the city, destroying rail lines. Greatly outnumbered and encircled by the rebels on several occasions, the Union force cut its way out of traps by bold saber charges against overwhelming odds. Ironically, a few days after reaching the safety of Union lines, Lemmon was captured by Confederate irregulars while he was securing fodder for his horse. He soon found himself in the notorious rebel prison compound at Andersonville, Georgia, where he remained for several weeks before being transferred to the equally brutal but less well-known POW compound at Florence, South Carolina. In late February of 1865, as Sherman's army marched through South Carolina, Confederate guards abandoned their post at Florence, and Lemmon and his fellow POWs were liberated. One of the few men able to walk out of the prison, Lemmon weighed little over 90 pounds. After a brief leave, he tried to rejoin his unit, but Army officials realized that he was in no condition for active military service. He was discharged as the war came to an end. Lemmon returned to his home in Michigan, but most of his family had moved to California following the discovery of gold there. When his physical condition didn't improve, the Michigan veteran sailed from New York for Panama, crossed the Isthmus, and booked passage on another ship for California. Reunited with his family in the high Sierras near Nevada, his health gradually improved, although he never recovered fully from the impact of prolonged malnutrition and the conditions he endured during his captivity. Fascinated by the new plants he encountered in the high elevation of his new home, Lemmon's interest in botany was rekindled. He devoted the rest of his life to the study of the flora of California and the American West. Many of the plants of that region now bear his name. He died in 1908 at the age of 76. Until recently, his extensive writings about his wartime experiences have been neglected in the archives of the herbarium of the University of California, Berkeley, by scientists more interested in his specimens and plant notes. Lemmon's accounts of his experiences in the war offer insight about medical treatment, the Atlanta campaign, and life in a Confederate prison camp from the viewpoint of an articulate private soldier.